It didn't happen during a fight. There was no screaming. No tears. Not even a slammed door. Just one sentence. One calm, cruel sentence that shattered everything I thought we were building. "You're great, Sam. You're just not enough for the life I want now." That's what Ethan said, after 5 years, 2 apartments, 3 jobs, and everything I gave up to help him chase his dreams. He said it like he was gently letting me down. Like he was doing me a favor by cutting me loose. But I wasn't broken in that moment. I was awake. Let me back up. My name is Samantha Green. For most of my 20s, I lived in the shadows of someone else's ambitions. While Ethan went back to school for his MBA, I worked 9 to 5 at a job I hated and delivered groceries in the evenings to help with rent. I packed his lunches. I edited his presentations. I waited tables on weekends so he could focus on networking events and internships. I believed in him more than he believed in himself. But the moment he landed that 6-figure job downtown, he believed in someone else. Her name was Chloe Hart. I found out about her from a tagged photo on his Instagram, a rooftop bar, golden hour lighting, his arm around her waist like it belonged there. 2 days later, he sat me down and told me the truth. He didn't cry. He didn't apologize. We've just grown in different directions. And then came the knife. Chloe fits into the kind of life I'm building now. You'd be miserable in it. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't ask, why her and not me? Because deep down, I already knew. Chloe was everything I wasn't, glamorous, polished, curated like a brand. I was tired, underpaid, and emotionally overdrawn. But I had one thing she didn't. Grit. Ethan thought I'd disappear quietly. He thought I'd fade into my beige apartment and cry into the same pillow I'd once fluffed for him. But I didn't cry. Not that night. I packed my things. Left him with the designer couch I helped pay for. And walked away with nothing in my hands but fire in my chest. I didn't want him back. I didn't want revenge. I wanted rebirth. And from that moment on, I made a promise. I will become the kind of woman who doesn't just rise. She rises so high, he won't even be able to reach. He left because I wasn't enough? I would become unforgettable. The first night in my new apartment, I slept on the floor. No bed. No furniture. Just a box of clothes, a $12 blanket from Target, and a heart too bruised to beat loudly. The walls were bare. The fridge was empty. And the silence? It was deafening. But it was mine. No more quiet resentment. No more waiting for someone to get home. No more sacrificing my needs to help someone build his empire. For the first time in 5 years, everything was painfully still. And still, I felt free. The next morning, I woke up sore but steady. I made coffee with a borrowed kettle and sipped it on the windowsill of my 3rd-floor walk-up. From there, I could see the skyline, tall buildings, glittering opportunity, everything I once thought I'd reach through him. Now, I knew better. If I wanted a future, I'd have to build it myself. At work, things weren't much better. I was still in my assistant role at a local wellness brand, overworked, underpaid, and invisible to upper management. The CEO, a shiny woman named Bridget, loved using phrases like team synergy and elevate your energy unless you asked for a raise, in which case you were disrupting the vibe. I didn't fit in with the influencers she courted or the interns she hired from rich families. I showed up, did the job, and faded into the background like wallpaper. But in that invisibility, I found something valuable. I was watching. I was learning. During my lunch breaks, I sat alone in the back office, not scrolling social media, not gossiping, but studying. Business strategy. E-commerce funnels. Product development. Brand psychology. I took notes like my life depended on it. Because, in a way, it did. Each new podcast, each free webinar, each downloadable marketing PDF, they weren't just tools. They were bricks. And every day, I laid a few more. Meanwhile, Ethan and Chloe's life played out online like a reality show. Luxury brunches. Weekend trips. Couples photo shoots. Hashtags like hashtag power couple, hashtag upgrade, hashtag manifested it. People I used to know liked and commented. Goals. Perfect together. You're glowing, girl. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Because I knew how much of it was real and how much was smoke. Ethan used to ask me for help drafting emails. Now he was suddenly a branding genius? Please. He'd traded real for shiny. Substance for sparkle. And sparkle fades. One night, after finishing a project at work that my manager took full credit for, I sat alone in my apartment and made a decision. I wasn't going to keep surviving. I was going to start building. Not a relationship. Not a rebound. But a future so rich in meaning, power, and peace that people like Ethan would choke on their regret just knowing I existed. I opened my laptop, created a blank doc, and typed in bold at the top. Project Rise, Samantha Green. Below it, I wrote, "You were never too little. He was just too small to see your worth. Now let's build the life he was never invited to share." No one tells you how slow transformation feels at first. It doesn't come with a makeover or a viral video. It comes in waves of quiet choices, tiny rebellions against who you used to be. The first thing I did? I stopped waiting. Stopped waiting for opportunities. Stopped waiting for someone to notice. Stopped waiting for Ethan's Instagram posts to stop stinging. I decided that if no one would open the door for me, I'd build my own. I started small. Every night after work, I dedicated 1 hour to Project Rise. No matter how tired I was. No matter how broke. No matter how tempted I felt to doom scroll or cry myself to sleep. That hour was sacred. I studied branding. I sketched product ideas. I made messy lists of what I loved: skincare, scent therapy, natural healing, design, storytelling. What started as scattered thoughts slowly formed into a picture. I didn't want to just run a business. I wanted to create a space where people like me, overlooked, overworked, and emotionally exhausted, could feel seen, healed, and strong again. That night, I typed it out for the first time. Rise Ritual, a wellness brand for women who are rebuilding. At work, nothing changed. Bridget still talked over me. My manager still stole credit. The company's glittery campaign still ignored the real stories behind women's pain. But I changed. Because now, every frustrating task became research. Every fake motivational meeting became fuel. Every product I helped design, I mentally improved. I was no longer stuck in a job. I was in training. I took weekend courses in product development. Taught myself to build a Shopify store. Watched every webinar I could find on launch strategies, email funnels, packaging design. I saved every spare dollar. Skipped outings. Sold old clothes. I gave up temporary comfort for future freedom. And the most powerful part? No one saw it coming. Meanwhile, Ethan and Chloe kept performing their fairy tale love online. But I began noticing the cracks. The captions got defensive. The smiles seemed staged. The glow faded. She was always promoting something. He was always tagging luxury brands. And slowly, people stopped commenting goals. Because they weren't goals. They were optics. The night I bought my first inventory of custom essential oils, I cried. Not because I was scared. Because I had done it all on my own. No help. No handouts. No man. Just me and the quiet voice inside that refused to die. I looked at the bottles lined up on my windowsill. Each one labeled. Each one mine. The woman Ethan said wasn't enough had just become a founder. And the brand? It wasn't just a business. It was my blueprint. A ritual. A rebellion. A revolution disguised as a self-care line. There was no launch party. No balloons, no confetti, no crowd of friends gathered to cheer me on. There was just me, sitting cross-legged on my apartment floor, eyes burning from staring at my screen for 14 hours straight, clicking publish on a website I built with my own tired hands. Rise Ritual was live. And no one knew. I didn't have a marketing team. I didn't have a budget for influencers or glossy campaigns. What I had were long nights, quiet belief, and a product line built from real pain, healing oils, calming sprays, and ritual kits designed for women clawing their way back from heartbreak, burnout, or betrayal. Women like me. I sent out the first email to the 10 subscribers I'd gathered from online forums and Facebook groups. And then, I waited. Refresh. Nothing. Refresh. Still nothing. My throat tightened. What if I'd built all of this for no one? The first order came in 3 hours later. A woman named Mia from Portland bought a Calm and Courage set. She left a note at checkout. I saw your post in that burnout recovery group. Thank you for making this. I didn't even know I needed it. I stared at the message, chest tight, heart hammering. She didn't know it. But that $34 order gave me back something I hadn't felt in months. Purpose. The next week brought 5 more sales. Then 12. Then a small wellness blog reposted my story from a forum, and I woke up to 40 orders in one night. I didn't have fancy packaging. Just recyclable boxes, tissue paper, and handwritten thank you notes. But I made each one with care. Wrapped like a prayer. Signed, for your comeback. Sam. I wasn't just building a brand. I was building a lifeline for people who'd been told they were too sensitive, too slow, too much, or too little. People like me. Meanwhile, Ethan was still glowing online. His LinkedIn announcement about his year of expansion got 500 likes. He reposted a quote. You can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself first. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my tea. He hadn't poured from his own cup once in 5 years. He drank from mine until it cracked. But now I was bottling my cup. And people were paying for it. I still worked my day job. Still nodded politely as my manager took credit for my ideas. Still sat alone at lunch with my spreadsheet of inventory costs. But every ding from my Shopify app was a reminder. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are choosing yourself every day in every quiet decision. And quiet decisions? Those build empires. It started with a follow. I was packing orders on a rainy Thursday evening, my hands wrapped in tissue paper and twine, when the notification popped up on my phone. At Ethan Miller just followed Rise Ritual. My breath caught. I stared at the screen, heart thudding so hard I could hear it. I hadn't seen his name on my feed in months. I had muted him after the breakup, blocked Chloe, and buried that chapter like a box in the attic of my mind. But now, there he was. Not following me. Following my business. I didn't react. Didn't text anyone. Didn't post. Didn't even tell my best friend. I simply smiled. The quiet, dangerous kind of smile. Because that single follow told me everything I needed to know. He had noticed. He had found me. And he didn't know what to do with the woman I had become. The next morning, he liked a post, a photo of our best-selling Break the Pattern kit with the caption, "For the women who rebuild in silence and rise with grace. You were never broken. Just underestimated." 3 hours later, I got a DM. From him. "Hey, is this your company? It looks amazing." I stared at the message, blinking slowly. 5 years of my life boiled down to hay. I didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. Instead, I kept working. Because I didn't build Rise Ritual for Ethan. I built it for the version of me you left behind, the girl who once cried herself to sleep in the apartment they shared, who now had international shipping and repeat customers. Let him scroll. Let him wonder. Let him sit in the discomfort of knowing he gave up the very thing he now admired from a distance. That weekend, Rise Ritual crossed its 500th order. A small milestone, maybe. But to me, it was everything. Because it meant that 500 people had trusted me. Trusted my voice. Trusted my healing. And Ethan? He had to watch it all from the outside. Later that night, I saw he had unfollowed the account. Not because he wasn't interested, but because watching me rise had become unbearable. And that was the sweetest revenge I'd never asked for. It happened fast. One repost. One viral thread. One woman with a big platform who wrote, "I ordered from a small brand called Rise Ritual during a rough week." The handwritten note made me cry. I don't know who Sam is, but she's building something sacred. She posted a picture of the Break the Pattern kit, her order next to a coffee mug and teary eyes. By morning, my inbox was flooded. I refreshed my orders tab. 30. 67. 112. It didn't stop. Influencers were sharing it. Therapists were linking to it. Women were tagging each other with captions like, "We all need this energy." For my sister, who's still healing from him. I've never felt so seen by a product before. I sat frozen for a moment. Then I got up, turned off the lights, and just stood in the quiet glow of my screen. The woman who once begged for recognition from a man was now being applauded by thousands of strangers, not for how she looked, not for who she dated, but for what she created. That week, I hired my first 2 team members. I moved operations out of my apartment and into a small rented studio. I partnered with a sustainable supplier. Rise Ritual was no longer just a brand. It was a movement. And then came the email. From a wellness magazine editor. "We'd love to feature you in our spring issue, Women Who Rose from Rock Bottom. Your brand is gaining momentum. Your story matters." For years, I was background noise in every room I entered. Now I was being invited to the front page. Ethan didn't message again. But Chloe did. A single DM that said, "Hey, is Rise Ritual your brand?" Asking for a friend. I laughed. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. Because somewhere in their penthouse life of likes and lies, they were seeing me. Not the Samantha who used to pack Ethan's lunches. But the Samantha who built a brand with her bare hands and broke the very ceiling they once said she'd never touch. And here's the thing about applause. When the world finally claps for you, you don't need your ex to notice. Because you already know who you are. And now, so does everyone else. It had been over a year since Ethan left. 12 months since that rooftop post with Chloe. 12 months since I sat alone in a near-empty apartment, trying to convince myself I wasn't worthless. Now, I walked into the Women in Wellness Expo as a keynote guest. My name was printed on the lanyards. My brand's booth was front and center. And the tote bags everyone carried? They said, Rise ritual, healing isn't soft, it's powerful. I was reviewing the event schedule with my new assistant, Kaya, when I heard it. Sam? The voice hit me like a distant echo from another life. I turned. And there he was. Ethan. Same sharp jawline. Same expensive cologne. But his energy was different now, hesitant, almost small. I didn't realize you'd be here, he said, eyes flicking down to my badge. You're speaking? I nodded. Panel at 2. On building brands that actually care. He blinked. You're the founder of Rise Ritual? I gave a soft, polite smile. The kind that doesn't reach the eyes. I am. He looked around, at the crowd, the branded booth behind me, the people waiting for photos. This is amazing. I mean, wow. I had no idea you were doing all this. I tilted my head slightly. Of course not. You weren't looking. A pause hung heavy between us. He chuckled awkwardly, trying to recover. Chloe uses your stuff. She's obsessed with the courage mist. I smiled again. Not because it made me happy, but because it was poetic. The woman he left me for now relied on the rituals I created in the ruins he left behind. Listen, he said quietly, I've been meaning to reach out. I know I didn't handle things well. I was selfish. Immature. I think about it more than I probably should. I let the words sit. Years ago, I would have clung to them, dissected every syllable like scripture. Now, they felt like echoes. Soft. Fading. Harmless. Ethan, I said, calm and clear, I'm not angry. I'm not waiting for closure. You were right about one thing, though. He looked surprised. What's that? I met his eyes. I wasn't enough for you. But that was never my failure. It was your limitation. He stood there speechless as Kaya returned and handed me my note cards. You're on in 10, Sam. They're ready for you. I nodded, then turned back to Ethan one last time. Take care. And tell Chloe I said thank you for the motivation. Then I walked away, heels clicking, shoulders square, heart whole. That was the moment I knew. This story didn't belong to him anymore. It never did. It belonged to the woman who kept showing up long after everyone else stopped believing and who became unforgettable without ever raising her voice. After the expo, things didn't slow down. In fact, they exploded. The panel clip where I spoke about turning rejection into ritual went viral on LinkedIn. Then again on TikTok. A major podcast invited me on. Then 2 magazines. Then a conference in New York. Rise Ritual doubled in sales in 6 weeks. I hired 3 new staff members. Launched a limited edition line that sold out in 24 hours. My life became a calendar of meetings, mentorship calls, production timelines, and purpose. But through all of it, one truth stayed sharp in my chest. I did this without him. Without his belief. Without his help. Without his name attached to my progress. Some nights, I sat in my new apartment, a beautiful sunlit space with plants and art and warmth, and thought about that first version of me. The girl who once whispered apologies when she took up space. Who once measured her worth by someone else's desire. Who once begged for crumbs of attention and called it love. I didn't hate her. I honored her. Because she didn't break. She rebuilt. Ethan didn't reach out again. But occasionally, I'd see his name pop up on my viewers list during a live stream. Or notice he'd like to comment on a podcast post. He was still watching. Still trying to catch glimpses of the life he walked away from. But I never reached back. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I had something better now. Peace. In my journal, I wrote, "You know you've healed when you stop hoping they see you. And start seeing yourself." That became a campaign quote. We printed it on packaging. And the comments rolled in. I felt this. This is where I'm trying to get to. I'm still in the becoming phase, but this gave me hope. One evening, after a workshop, a woman came up to me in tears. I left a man who made me feel small. Your story, it made me believe I could be more than what he reduced me to. I hugged her. And in that moment, I realized this was the real victory. Not proving Ethan wrong, but helping other women prove themselves right. There's a moment, a quiet one, when you stop chasing who you thought you should be and realize you've already become everything you once begged for. For me, that moment came on a Monday morning. Not dramatic. Not viral. Just simple. I woke up in my new home, sunlight filtering through sheer curtains, the hum of city life outside, and I didn't feel fear. Not about money. Not about love. Not about my future. I brewed my own coffee. Opened my inbox. Looked over a partnership deal with a major retailer. And I didn't question whether I belonged in the room. Because now, I was the room. In the early days, I built Rise Ritual to survive. To stay afloat. To prove something. But now, it had become a movement. Women wrote in daily, sharing their stories of leaving toxic relationships, rebuilding after layoffs, healing childhood wounds. My products were in boutiques across 3 states. Our online community had grown to 90,000. We'd launched a scholarship for first-gen female entrepreneurs. The brand wasn't just about candles or oils anymore. It was about transformation. And so was I. I started dressing differently. Not to impress, but to reflect who I'd become: sharp lines, warm tones, quiet power. I walked into meetings with the same grace I used to shrink away with. Only now, I didn't fold my hands in my lap. I didn't second-guess my voice. I didn't explain myself. Because I wasn't asking for permission to exist anymore. And something else shifted, too. I stopped measuring my growth against Ethan. For so long, my milestones had felt sweeter when I imagined him watching. But one night, I realized something startling. I hadn't thought of him in weeks. Not when we hit record sales. Not when I hired a full-time creative director. Not when I signed the lease on our new studio space. He had become irrelevant. A faded chapter in a book I no longer needed to reread. I wasn't the girl he left. I wasn't the version of me who sat in a silent apartment crying over someone who saw her as not enough. I was her now. The woman who didn't wait to be chosen. Who chose herself, day after day, and turned that choice into power. It came full circle in a way I never expected. A corporate wellness firm reached out to Rise Ritual with a bulk order request. They wanted to gift our resilience kits to their leadership team at an upcoming retreat. The name of the company? Wexler and Hart Strategy Group. And on their executive list? Ethan Miller. I sat with that email for a long time. Not with anger. Not even with amusement. Just silence. It was poetic, really. He once called me not enough for the kind of life he wanted. Now he was getting branded reminders of my success, with handwritten notes from my team, sealed with my logo. The woman he abandoned? Now packaged in every product they ordered. Not in desperation, but as authority. I didn't deny the order. I didn't change a thing. In fact, I added something. Each kit included a printed card with my original quote. You are not broken. You were simply underestimated. Samantha Green, founder of Rise Ritual. No name removed. No initials. Just the full truth. Delivered to the very boardroom where I was once dismissed in private. The following week, he sent a message. From his professional account. I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you. You've built something truly incredible. You look like you've found your place. I didn't reply. Not out of spite. Because I had nothing left to say. The story wasn't his anymore. And the ending didn't need a confrontation. It already had a climax, my piece. Revenge, I learned, doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't need tears. Or shouting. Or dramatic exits. It can be quiet. Refined. Powerful in its stillness. It can look like a woman sipping coffee in a home she bought herself, reading messages from women she's helped, and smiling. Because she knows who she is now. They said I wasn't enough. I became more than they could ever imagine. They replaced me. I replaced the need for them. They walked away thinking they'd won. And I walked into a future they'll never be invited to. Because real revenge isn't about proving them wrong. It's about becoming someone who never needed their opinion in the first place. And that's exactly who I am now.